On this week's show, Coffin Bound, a chat with Karen Berger, and Absolute Carnage. It's Previews World Weekly, and it's happening right now. What's up, Previews World? It's Wednesday, it's New Comic Book Day, which means it's time for Previews World Weekly. I'm one of your hosts, Troy Jeffrey Allen.
And I'm Thea, and we're here every week to remind you guys to stop at a comic shop and get involved in what's happening in the world of comics. And, of course, if you like the show, be sure to give us a like and subscribe to make sure you keep the nerd news coming.
Yeah. And speaking of nerd news, I just thought this was interesting. I saw that Andy Serkis is directing Venom 2.
Yeah.
Which is really random.
Seemingly.
Yeah.
But I can see it working.
Yeah, I'm like,
who he is.
I'm very curious about that, yeah, because he's a unique guy.
To say the least.
And like, it almost makes me wonder if maybe like he's perfect for that role because of all his experience with like motion capture and all this stuff. Like,
probably.
It's almost like, are we going to get like an Ang Lee thing where he's going to become the symbiote for the movie itself?
That would be really cool. Yeah, I'd be down for that.
Yeah, it was just in the news, and like it was just like on the periphery of everything. And then I gave it a second look, and I was like, wait a minute, I did read that right. Yeah. So also in the nerd news category, Wildcats is canceled. Yeah. There's a lot of theories about why it was canceled. I'm not going to get into any of that. You can go anywhere on YouTube or anywhere really and see a million reasons why. But I found out through the Warren Ellis newsletter, and like it sounds like he's optimistic that it's not done. It's just for the time being it's being put on hold. A little hiatus, which is unfortunate. I just thought it was important to point out because it was on the cover of Previews catalog just like I want to say about a month or two ago. And I was looking forward to it. And I've been talking to Wildstorm for a while, and now this was the extension of that series, so kind of sucks, but you guys can speculate why that happened. Some interesting theories, some I think are completely off base, but
as is the nature.
That's what the internet does, right? Also speaking of DC Comics, we're going to be doing a Batman Damned Pop giveaway and a Batman Who Laughs giveaway later in the show. So definitely keep an eye on that. But we're here to talk about comics, so let's talk about comics. And Amia's here, and she's going to show you what's going on at your local comic shop this week. Check it out.
Hey Previews World! Every week we give you the rundown of some of the books hitting the shelves for the first time. Here's what's at comic shops for the week of August 7th. Is that it? No way. Your comic shop has something for every type of customer. So stop at a comic shop today, and I'll see you back here next week.
Thanks, Anamia. And of course, as usual, that's just a little bit of what's available this week. If you want to see a full list of what we've got out right now, head on over to previewsworld.com/new releases. What are you reading?
I'm going to try to say this correctly. Ryuko from Titan Comics.
Alrighty.
Actually, specifically, it's from their Hard Case Crime line.
Cool.
Which is kind of cool. Like, I was really big on a book they put out like about a year and a half ago from the Hard Case Crime line. It was called Reassignment, and so basically it's a lot of like crime noir stuff.
Cool.
But just from different vantage points, different aspects of it. And this one just happens to be like an import, so it's coming from Japan, and it's basically about a Yakuza princess who goes to the Middle East. But she botches, I guess, like from the description, it sounds like some sort of illegal operation that she's part of gets botched, and so all that drama follows her back home, and she's got some people to answer for. And I was mentioning like off camera, I just saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah, I'm all about exploitation films, and but right now I'm definitely in the mood for that. And like they immediately evoked like the Japanese motorcycle gangster thing again, which we were just talking about another book last week. Oh God, something Turbo. I can't remember what it's called, but.
Sukiban Turbo.
Sukiban Turbo. Yeah. There you go. So it just seems to be in the air. So I'm all for it. So yeah, definitely check that out. It's from Hard Case Crime / Titan Comics out this week. What are you looking forward to?
Die.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I've been reading Die, and we're on to issue number 6 now.
Nice.
And I am very excited about this series. It is really cool. It's definitely grown-up D&D for
Nice,
sure.
nice, nice.
It's got some cool themes going on. It's got a lot of real life in addition to the fantasy. And I'm just really enjoying this series.
Okay, cool,
Yeah,
cool.
Absolutely.
Also, shout out to Game Trade Media, right, for the D&D. Just to give them a shout out because it's D&D
Always,
related, right?
always.
Have you done videos with them for Game Trade Media? Like, have you done any game?
Not
videos?
recently, but I
Not
have
recently?
done in past.
In
Yeah.
the past? Okay, yeah. Look those up. Thea's on there too, like playing games. So, another one I'm looking forward to that I remember seeing this a couple months back and I kind of forgot about it. And I'm glad someone, actually one of our viewers reminded me about this. The Island of Dr. Moreau. I'm not going to pretend to have ever read the H.G. Wells book. I've never read it before. But the thing that captured my attention about this was, well, I saw that god-awful Marlon Brando movie from like a few years back, like about 20 years ago.
Nice.
But like the artwork is jaw-dropping.
It is.
And it comes from Gabriel Rodriguez, who's like one of the creators behind Lock and Key. And yeah, it just looks great. Like I'm just really curious about this. And the way it's described is it's a it's a story about science gone mad. It's probably one of the most well-known stories about science gone mad.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. And like the description kind of relates it to like current events, I think, which is also kind of interesting. Also, I feel like they're coming from a different perspective. Like, I think in the movie it's the Val Kilmer character. Correct me if I'm wrong, internet. But like, there's a different character in this story that's like, that's the viewer's focal point.
Nice.
So yeah, just interesting and
Very cool.
just really cool artwork. And it's a nice little two-parter. So get in, get out. So, what else are you looking forward to?
We are going back to my comic roots, friends.
Oh, yeah?
Lenore is back.
Oh yeah.
Which I think is the second comic I ever read. And so Roman Dirge is back with Lenore, and she's got the weird adventures that she's usually on. And she's got her little buddy Ragamuffin, the vampire turned stuffed animal. And the description for this issue is a demented pickle hat begins its mad killing spree.
Interesting.
Yes.
Huh.
Usually.
Okay.
Usually.
I mean, it's Roman Dirge, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's issue 12?
This is the first issue.
Oh, it's the first
This
issue.
is the first
Okay, I
issue
might
of
have
the
been
new
looking at that wrong.
series.
Oh, the new series.
So
Okay.
it's Lenore Volume 3
Volume 3.
is the new series, and this is
Okay.
issue number 1.
All right, interesting. Yeah, I remember that from back in the day when I was running a store. And people coming for Johnny the Homicidal Maniac.
And Lenore.
And Lenore and Emily the Strange.
Yeah.
Like those were that was the trifecta at the time. So I'm all for it. Some other stuff you should look out for too this week. We haven't read them, but they are coming out, and I know these are really big ticket items. Absolute Carnage. Which is Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman's big event crossover for, of course, Carnage. And the thing that's cool about this is it's focused on Cletus Cassidy, who's the other guy who had the symbiote, of course.
Right.
He's actually kind of probably one of my favorites of the two.
Yeah.
Actually, my favorite of the two. But he's a serial killer. Like he was always introduced as a serial killer, and I think it's really interesting because he's targeting anybody who's ever worn a symbiote before. So he's doing what serial killers do.
Yeah. Funny that.
Right. So yeah, it looks kind of cool, and it's a cool summer event that they're throwing out there. And it's Donny Cates. I'm a big fan of Donny Cates. I know a lot of people are.
Of course.
And what else could people look forward to?
We have Berserker Unbound number 1.
Nice.
And this looks like a lot of fun. So a sword and sorcery warrior finds himself blasted through a wormhole to modern day, and he's in a super urban metropolis, and he ends up having to protect the people of modern day from an evil wizard that's determined to send him to hell.
Nice.
But of course, anybody gets in that guy's way, they're screwed, so
Right,
he's
right.
got to make sure there isn't collateral damage. And yeah, it's from Jeff Lemire and Mike Deodato Jr. and Frank Martin, so
Nice. Yeah.
another list of great
It's
names.
a powerhouse team, actually. Yeah. So actually, that one looks kind of fun, like Conan in real life.
Exactly,
Basically.
yeah.
It also reminds me of there was a Schwarzenegger movie called Hercules in New York. It's ancient,
Yes,
but
exactly,
it was
yeah.
before he was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right.
But,
Perfect.
But yeah, so definitely check that out. Also, we're going to show you a trailer for a book that came out this week. It's called Coffin Bound, and it's actually kind of cool. We'll talk a little bit more about it when we come back. But check this trailer out. It's an interesting little title from Image Comics. that was Coffin Bound from Image Comics. That's out this week. And like, I think we both were pretty impressed with that.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
That's like AU, me and my boyfriend. It's bird skull, cage head man.
First go, it's cool. I mean, again, another more exploitation vibe. Like, I'm in the mood for this right now, so I'm like all about it.
Yes.
I love the description too. It says, if the world won't have her, it can have nothing of her at all. I just love that. They really do embrace like the nihilistic entropy like angle of it, which I think is great.
I need to read this.
So more comic stuff happening in the world, of course. Like the last 7 days, there's been a ton of news. So Thea's going to give us a rundown of all the news items in the world of comics, and then we'll give a little commentary on top of that. It's time for news.
Image and Skybound Entertainment are pleased to announce that every issue so far of the all-new fantasy action series Excellence by Kari Randolph and Brandon Thomas, with colors by Emilio Lopez and letters by Darren Bennett, will be rushed back to print in order to keep up with its growing demand. Excellence introduces Spencer Dales, a young man born into a world of magic. His father belongs to a secret society of magicians ordered by their unseen masters to selflessly better the lives of others, those with greater potential. Now Spencer must follow in his father's footsteps, but all he sees is a broken system in need of someone with the wand and the will to change it. But in this fight for a better future, who will stand beside him? Catch reprints of issues 1 through 3 on Wednesday, August 28th.
No, this series kind of surprised me. Like, I picked it up just because I was like, oh, it's Kari Randolph. Like, you know, I'll check it out. But it's actually an really good read. It's got like a whole father-son dynamic, but it talks about legacy, and of course, there's this whole backdrop of magic. So yeah, I mean, definitely check it out. And it seems like you're going to get another opportunity to if your comic shop is sold out. So
yeah,
cool.
The webhead's favorite redhead is spinning out of the Amazing Spider-Man and into her own all-new ongoing series. Gear up for The Amazing Mary Jane #1, brought to you by Leah Williams and Carlos Gomez, with this slate of spectacular covers that feature Mary Jane taking on the Marvel Universe. Take a peek at a select few now, including titles such as Black Cat, Silver Surfer Black, Fantastic Four, and Captain America. Check out PREVIEWSworld.com for the current list, and stay tuned for more updates in the coming weeks.
Yeah. And now we have there are already more variants available.
Many more.
And you can check them out on the website.
Many more.
Yeah. So
yeah, we just sort of like picked a few of them.
Yeah.
But there's usually a list. Go check it out.
All right. Check it out. And like, Lee Williams. Sorry. And yeah, she's been blowing up lately. Like, she's all over the Marvel stuff. And people say her stuff is good, so I'm definitely going to check this out. I got a soft spot for Mary Jane. Like, I know some people are Gwen Stacy people, but I didn't grow up on Gwen Stacy, so who cares? But yeah,
Fair enough.
But yeah, I'm down for a Mary Jane book, especially the premise, which is like she goes to Hollywood, and like apparently like the whole thing's been manipulated by Mysterio.
Ooh.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting.
I always like Mysterio stuff.
Yeah,
too.
right. So
Cool.
yeah, check it
Here
out.
for it. Next up, Image Comics is pleased to reveal a jaw-dropping Jason Sean Alexander cover for the upcoming milestone Spawn 300 issue by Todd McFarlane. And of course, we know that this is just one of many exciting cover reveals to come on the #RoadTo300. Don't forget, the record-setting Spawn number 300 hits stores Wednesday, September 4th.
Yeah, no, really cool. And I'm going to keep saying this. Keep an eye out for our McFarlane interview, because it's coming up, and he talks about 300, like, you know, building towards 300, but also just Spawn's legacy.
Yeah.
Even talks a little bit about like some of the Hollywood stuff that's been going on with the recent movie that he's supposed to direct. And so, yeah.
A little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Exactly.
Spawn,
right. Keep an eye out. And of course, there are more covers coming down the road.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, just keep checking PREVIEWSworld.com, the front page.
Word. And finally, Deceased, the smash hit horror series featuring DC Entertainment's heroes fighting for survival in the midst of the anti-life equation-induced apocalypse, spreads its infection throughout the month of October with 23 Deceased variant covers across the DC universe. The variant covers are available to order now at your local comic shop and feature artwork by some of the industry's top talents, including Brian Hitch, Francesco Mattina, and others, each depicting DC's top heroes plunging into the bloody world of Deceased. Titles include Batgirl, Justice League, Batman and Superman, and Detective Comics. And as usual, to check out these awesome variants, head on over to the Previews World website. Like I said, there are 23.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, we only gave you a little bit.
Yeah, just legit go to the Previews World website.
Yes. Check them out.
I did look like a lot of variants news this week, actually.
Yeah.
I didn't realize like how much of it was just mostly variants. So a lot of big events coming up.
For sure.
So We've talked quite a bit about like doing more interviews on the show, and I think it's something that we're going to try to make a weekly thing. And it just so happens that last year Johnny and I did a bunch of interviews at New York Comic Con, and some of the stuff ended up on the cutting room floor. And one interview in particular was an interview with Karen Berger, and the interview itself is about 15 minutes long. So you know, we might actually just post the entire interview, but like. It's interesting because like what you get when you run that long sometimes is like interesting insight that you didn't necessarily ask for.
Sure.
But the person you're interviewing is providing. So I wanted to go ahead and toss this out here. Here's an interview with Karen Berger from New York Comic Con last year. She of course is now running Berger Books, but formerly she was the head honcho at Vertigo. And she talks a little bit about Vertigo, but she also talks a little bit about just like her career in general. Check this out, Karen Berger. So you edit everything at Berger Books?
I edit everything at Berger Books,
and
yeah.
like, what is that like? Like,
well, essentially Berger Books is me and my husband, Richard Bruning, who's the art director and graphic designer. Rich and I met at DC Comics. We were an office romance that worked many years ago. Richard is a well-known graphic designer in the field. He designed the Vertigo logo, who designed the San Diego Comic-Con logo, as well as tons of logos and publication design he worked on. Dark Knight and Watchmen, he's creative director at DC for 15 years. So it's great being married to a graphic designer when you want to be when you're an editor and you're kind of doing your own line together. So it's just us. I mean, we're you know, I'm a freelance editor. With a little shingle at Dark Horse, and Mike Richardson has been wonderful to me, as well as the other people at Dark Horse. And but I work from home. We're empty nesters, and we each have taken over our son's bedrooms. And
is that what the office is now?
Those are exactly. So it's good. I'm really enjoying being in the trenches again as an editor. With Vertigo, the line got so big that I was really just editor-in-chiefing it for most of the time as time went on, and involved in development in all the titles, but was not hands-on editing as much as I did early on in my career. After I left DC and took a few years off from comics, I really missed it. I wanted to come back, but I wanted to get my hands dirty again. I didn't want to do a whole big line. I just wanted to have a nice, small line that I could really call my own. And set it up at a place, you know, like Dark Horse, whose work I respect enormously, and great. Dark Horse is a great home for me in terms of its, you know, commitment to creator-owned titles and progressive sensibility. Dark Horse produces beautiful hardcovers and collections, and to me, it's the book that really matters at the end of the day. And the periodical is sort of one way to get there. So so I'm very, very happy to be at Dark Horse.
So, thanks to Karen Berger for sitting down and talking with us and pretty much answering any questions we had and just giving us insight in general. I just think that's, you know, we talk about the comics culture. I mean, that's really what this show is about. So like, I think it's interesting to get insight about things that, not necessarily that we asked about, but like, you know, it's just interesting to find out like, oh, your husband designed the Vertigo logo and your husband designed the Watchmen logo, and like, that's you know, like your thought process of what you look for in a comic. So definitely keep an eye out for the longer interview. Like I said, it's 15 minutes long. It's really interesting. And I also want to point out that we mentioned earlier about the Wildcats cancellation. And the reason I bring that up is because, you know, there's been a bunch of DC books that have like recently gotten like shifted or removed or whatever, and like people were upset about the Vertigo line, like kind of getting canceled. And like it's still hasn't happened yet, but at the same time, I think it's interesting to just remind people, yes, the Vertigo spirit still lives on. Yes. And people like Karen Berger are just taking that to other houses. Shelley Bond has taken her, like, you know, she's another Vertigo editor, has gone to another house. Axel Alonso was another one. He's got another company that's starting up soon. So, like, just support those people. Be sure to, like, you know, keep their titles in your pull box or whatever, because they still exist. And on that note, it's time for Previews Toy Chest. Natasha's here, and she's going to show you what's inside the Previews Toy Chest, and we're going to show you a little trailer after that, and then we'll come back. Check it out.
Hey Previews World, here's this week's rundown of some of the toys, statues, and collectibles hitting store shelves for the first time. Let's take a look inside the Previews Toy Chest. Want to see more? Be sure to check out Talking Toys, our weekly show that spotlights new collectibles on the way to your friendly local comic shop. Just head over to PREVIEWSworld.com/talkingtoys to find out more.
And that was a little teaser for Powers of 10, which came out this past week. And like, there's going to be a new X-Men book in this line of X-Men books for the next, I want to say, what, 7 weeks? So like, definitely keep an eye out on that. And one of the reasons we showed you that is because like our social swamp this week was actually related to House of X and Powers of 10, the Jonathan Hickman run. So we asked you guys like, hey, what do you think about this series so far? And you gave us some feedback. So check it out. Here's our social swamp for this week.
So as usual, we posed a question to you guys on social media. This week we asked what your big questions were after reading House of X and Powers of 10. And really we just wanted to gauge a reaction in general to both of these things, right? So we got a few responses. Comic Smurf said a bunch of stuff, but specifically, so is the Powers of 10 based on 10 Omega level mutants that fight for Krakoa, and will the 10th be Franklin? Thanks y'all, love your content. We love you too.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you for watching.
I mean, he kind of greased the wheel a little bit there. I was like, well, if you love the content, we'll put you on the show.
Next up, Cy Shackelford said, I'm looking forward to this. The first 2 issues have created more questions than answers.
Which is fair. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, very fair.
Which they should too.
Yeah,
I feel like
right,
they
right.
got to keep you reading.
Oh yeah, for
You
sure.
got to find out. William Quest said, my biggest question is, WTF, Marvel? It just seems that so many stories and arcs were cut off midstream, and bam.
Sorry, Adam, I don't agree with that.
Whatever.
No, whatever.
And then finally, Retro Toy Nerd said, is Professor X being mind controlled?
That crossed my mind too.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, like I understand that for a lot of people, if you're not following this series, like it's going to be kind of like, what are they talking about? But like, yeah, this is an interesting book so far, like or a pair of books. House of X came out like 2 weeks ago. Powers of 10 came out a week ago, and now we're about to get a new House of X. And it's Jonathan Hickman, and he's teaming up with some really talented artists. There's like some really great artwork in this series. But these are high concepts.
Yes.
Like this book is entirely about high concepts. And the thing I like about it thus far, and I've mentioned this before, is that they're the uncanny X-Men. They are not superheroes.
Yes.
And I think that's always been the shortcoming of the movies in a lot of ways.
That's fair.
When they pursue that too much, it's like, no, they're not the Avengers. They're
No.
like, they're something other.
Yeah.
And the books have done a really great job of making them unpredictable and a little bit off-putting, which I think is actually pretty awesome.
Yeah.
The other great thing, and I think this is something that comics need right now, is that I've noticed that one of the reasons I was asking for questions of speculation was that like, I've noticed that like people are speculating and questioning what's going on in this book.
Cool.
And I think that it's almost like that Game of Thrones thing where it's like every issue presents a new series of questions.
Nice.
And so I'm consistently interested in what you guys are thinking about like this series. Like what do you foretelling about what's going to happen down the line? So yeah, definitely keep the speculation train rolling, and hopefully we'll have an interview with somebody who's at Marvel who actually has some answers for us. So we'll find out more about that later. I'm not gonna, I'll underplay it a little bit. But yeah, it's an interesting book, and I'm really looking forward to where this is going. So
Solid.
yeah, if you're not checking it out, don't get left behind. Pick it up now because it's just going to get crazier and crazier.
The time
pretty
is
certain.
now.
So on that note, we did promise you guys a giveaway at the end of the show, and it's almost the end of the show.
It's true.
So we have a Batman Damned Funko Pop giveaway, and we have a Batman Who Laughs Funko Pop giveaway. And how can they win? Also, can we show it to them?
We can, because we got some.
Wha-bam.
Boom.
Shiny boys.
Yeah, yeah.
They're both very good figures.
Both previous exclusives, by the way, I should point out.
Now you can see them.
There you go. Ta-da!
Nailed it.
Engineer Johnny giving us some directions off camera.
I'm doing my my best, Johnny.
It's okay. It's all right.
So if you guys out there want to win these Batmanses, let us know how you first discovered Batman. We'll take entries until next week, and we'll pick one of you guys to win these guys.
Cool, cool. Do you remember your first Batman?
No. Do I?
He's just kind of always been around, right? That's kind of the funny thing about it, yeah.
Batman exists.
Right, yeah.
I suppose the moment I was specifically enjoying Batman more was Batman Beyond, actually.
Okay. All right, yeah. All right, nice,
Yeah.
nice. I know a lot of people love that series.
It's so good.
I've seen the Return of the Joker movie, but I've never actually watched the cartoon.
Yeah.
But like, I always found it interesting how many people like have latched onto that series.
The art style of that show was so cool to me.
Right.
So I was just like...
It was like cyberpunk for kids.
Exactly,
basically.
Yeah. And I was like, sign me up. Yes, give me more of this, that person.
Right.
Good.
That's a fun one. Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, I thought I had a straight answer for that. But yeah, he's just always been around. Like I remember watching the Adam West shows like in the 90s, you know, when like they were just doing them on repeat. But then they also had the Spider-Man, Batman, Scooby-Doo, and like
sure, yeah,
you know, just
little crossovers.
Yeah, little crossover stuff. And then of course the movies and the comics. He's just always been there.
Yep.
So that's fair.
Batman exists.
We also have a comic shop shout out this week.
Of course we do.
And this is coming from the Philippines, right?
Yes, this is very cool. So this week's shout out goes to Comic Odyssey in the Philippines, and that was sent in by Stephen Maxwell Tan. So there you go, guys. We're going to leave you with photos of that at the end of the show.
Yeah.
And of course, if you want your favorite comic shop featured, let us know what they are. Use the hashtag #SupportYourLCS, and you could get featured.
Cool. And that's it this week for this week's show. I am one of your hosts, Troy Jeffrey Allen.
And I'm Thea, and we'll see you at the spinner rack.
Thanks for watching Previews World Weekly. If you like the show, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future episodes.